Here are 6 techniques to improve at Blitz. Number 1 is to hover your pieces over squares they will move to. For example, after 1 e4, I know that most of the time I'm going to be playing knight f3 on move 2. But if I were to pre-move knight f3 and my opponent plays d5, then I might end up in a position I'm not comfortable playing. After pawn takes e4, I end up in the Tennyson gambit, which is not a bad opening, but just not one I know much about. You can use this technique throughout the whole game to save a lot of time without taking any risks, especially in the opening when most of the time you know what you're going to do in advance. Number 2 is to make smart pre-moves. For example, in this position, on move 2, I usually play knight c6. But if I pre-move knight c6 and my opponent plays d4, then I'm in trouble. So instead, I could pre-move pawn takes d4 and maybe hover my knight on c6 so that after d4 is played, I already have that taken. Captures and recaptures are smart pre-moves because they only ever get played when they need to be played. Another smart pre-move is late in the game when you move your king in anticipation of checks. You can win many time scrambles by employing this technique. Number 3 is to not slow down when you're winning. This comes from the idea that when you're winning, you want to slow down to make sure not to give away your advantage. But in shorter time controls, what usually ends up happening is that you slow down too much and end up in time trouble, where you can blunder or even lose on time. Here's a game I played where I was winning, and the engine here even gives me +8, but I ended up in time trouble and blundered away mate in2. So you have to remember that you're playing Blitz, and whether you're winning or losing, always keep an eye on the clock. Number 4 is to think during your opponent's turn. This lets you stay ahead on the clock, and your opponent might get nervous if they have to spend loads of time thinking, which would make them more prone to blundering. For example, here I should be thinking, what if my opponent plays c5, in which case I'll rapidly play a3, followed by recapturing their knight if they take it. Or my opponent could play knight c6, in which case I'm going to castle and carry on. But if my opponent decides to castle, I'm going to go for the king. Number 5 is to figure out what you're good at. By this I mean, are you a strong tactician or a very good positional player? If you're able to calculate very quickly, then you should look to get yourself into sharp positions, like this one, where both sides are hunting the enemy king. On the other hand, you may prefer calmer positions, in which you can use your intuition to your advantage. With only 3 to 5 minutes on the clock, it's important to play to your strengths. So if you keep losing to crazy tactics, maybe it's time to switch things up. Number 6. Know some basic opening lines so you don't waste any time early. As white, you want to have a go-to first move. This could be e4. Then you'll want to have some knowledge of what to play against the most popular responses, like c5 or e6 or d5. As black, you want to prepare defenses against the most common opening moves, like e4, d4, c4, or even knight f3. Playing the best moves in the opening saves you lots of time and gives you confidence. And again, you only need basic knowledge of the most popular lines. You don't need to study what to play against moves like b4 or g4, but in this case, just abide by basic opening principles of controlling the center and developing your pieces, and you'll be fine. Or you could just always abort the game and start a new one. Those were 6 techniques to improve at Blitz. Let me know in the comments if you have any techniques or tips of your own. Like the video and subscribe to my channel for more chess content.